exist. However, what Vladimir Putin could have done is make use of data, knowledge and experience that was developed and gathered for decades on end by Russian Soviet agents within Western culture, within American culture, who had the sole aim of gathering as much intelligence on Western societies, in particular how they function, what their vulnerabilities are, how they are most likely to develop, what are their pros and cons, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and how can we use those attributes against them, or rather in favor of ours. Now, here's what you have to understand. Operations such as these have been going on all throughout the Cold War. Right? Russian spies, intelligence agencies had as one of their sole strategic objectives the degradation of Western society, degradation of Western culture, trying to popularize communism within Western society, and hoping for a political shift towards the latter, right? And if that wasn't feasible, then at the very least, what they wanted to achieve was to get a very clear picture as to how Western society functions, how it's what are the origins of its liberal ideals, what are the cornerstones of its liberal ideals, and how can we best utilize them in our own counter strategies pertaining to Western influence, not just within the geopolitical sphere, within their own communities as well. So with that knowledge in mind, it is very plausible that the Kremlin, Putin, or any Russian affiliated agency or entity had at the very least a hand in the whole scheme surrounding Epstein, because they perceived it as a way in which they could manipulate the capitalist elite of America, and thereby further their own influence, spread their own roots throughout these sub-cultures, throughout these sub-societies, these sub-demographics, if you will, and influence US foreign as well as domestic policy. So that is not a far-fetched conspiracy theory, and I'm quite certain that if Putin knew about the extent of the Epstein scheme, he will most certainly have tried to increase his influence within that group, whether that be economically, whether that be through intelligence gathering, whether that be for blackmail, for sabotage, for espionage, who knows. But it is very likely that Putin will at the very least have a hand in it, or at the very least would have tried to utilize the Epstein scheme for Russia's political agendas, especially those pertaining to the degradation of Western culture and Western society, which, as I've said before, has been a very important cornerstone of Russia anti-Western policies for decades on end.